Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Nathan Baird, Andrew Gillis, and it's time to make our game picks. Ohio State is favored by 29 points against Western Kentucky on Saturday. The game kicks off at 4 o'clock with the over being 64, over-under being 64, excuse me. Andrew, give us your game pick.
During one of the intermissions, if you will, during one of the breaks, that's a better word for it, during one of the breaks, we were all talking about, how Steven is cat sitting and he's currently by a train station. I currently live by a train station, and they make a lot of noise, and that's because the Kyle McCord hype train is about to go off the rails. Ohio State's going to win 52-21. Kyle McCord is going to look really good on Saturday. That is my, it's not my outrageous prediction. It would have been if two people who shall remain nameless didn't take it before. I think with the amount of plays that you're going to run this week, Ohio State threw 33 passes last week, right? So 33 passes, let's just say all of them go to McCord. Well, they ran 27, or they had 27 run plays. So 27 run plays, I don't know, you add 20 more plays, maybe 15, 20 more plays to this game plan. Like, you can establish the run, you can get up to 40 rushes and then get McCord near 40 passes. Near 40 passes, like Kyle McCord last week, 14-20, 258 and 3 touchdowns, 12.9 yards on average per completion. Like, that's really good. And I just think that with this type of offense, with this defense, with this situation of getting more plays, getting more reps, McCord's going to be more comfortable. He's going to have, he's going to have the comfortability kind of growing from week to week. I think that, there's going to be a lot of people out there who maybe looked at the Indiana game and said, I can't believe we're not seeing Devin Brown. I think they might be a little upset or I think they might be a little quieter this week. I think that Kyle McCord's going to play really well. I think this offense is really going to show some things. I mentioned this is kind of the dress rehearsal for a Notre Dame game. It's not to the level of a Michigan game, obviously, where you look at the betting lines the week before and never do Ohio State or Michigan cover in the game the week before. I think this obviously has a very different tone. So I think Ohio State is going to cover. I think we're going over on the over-under just because these teams, I think Ohio State's going to improve offensively to a point where, their efficiency will be better. And I just also think that there's going to be more plays and more possessions and more drives and all those things like that. So, yeah, Ohio State's going to win, I think, fairly comfortably. I think that they're going to jump on them early, and I think you're really going to start to see some true signs of improvement from this offense. The offensive line I still have questions about. I don't know if that's going to be one of the areas, but I think specifically with quarterback, with the run game, with the secondary, I think you're going to see some strong things. So Ohio State, 52-21.
You're taking them to cover, and you're taking the over. Ohio State hasn't covered yet this year, but you're taking them to cover. And so am I. I'm also taking them to cover. Ohio State, 52, Western Kentucky, 19. I think defensively, this might Western Kentucky's going to move the ball, and I think defensively it might play out similarly to what we saw last week, where Western Kentucky on one of those first 2 or 3 drives gets into the end zone, and then the Ohio State cleans some things up. But Western Kentucky's better than Youngstown State is offensively, so they might move the ball again on a couple more drives, but it ends in field goals instead of touchdowns. So that's one touchdown, but then a bunch of field goals throughout the game for Western Kentucky. While I'm with you, Andrew, I think Ohio State's just going to put up points. We've seen bits and pieces of the explosive Ohio State offense, but we haven't seen the full totality of it for – I don't think we're going to get it for 60 minutes, because if they're winning 52-19, then they're probably just running the clock out in the fourth quarter. But for 45 minutes, can we see explosive Ohio State football and offense with Kyle McCord as your surefire starter? He's not sharing it with Devin Brown, and the run game maybe gets going a little bit more, but also just getting Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka involved early, and maybe getting Julian Fleming and Cardinal Tate a little bit more involved than they have in the first 2 weeks. So I'm taking 52-19. That is Ohio State also covering, and that's also taking the over. Nathan, are you going to join us?
Well, I painted myself in the corner when my outrageous prediction was Kyle McCord's throwing for 7 or 6 touchdowns. So I had to go to at least 42 points. I ended up going 49-14. So I'm in the same neighborhood as you guys. I'm going under that total just barely, but easily covering the 29. And as I'm pretty sure you just talked to Tishu about, and if you didn't talk to him about it, no, I'm telling you this now, and maybe you can ask him about it. Because I was having a conversation with him today about where Ohio State is in his power rankings right now, and how these first 2 games have thrown his numbers off a little bit, and now they have sort of slipped from the most elite tier in terms of offense. But the defense is rising. The defense is up in the top 10, and that's what I think is maybe going to carry this day as far as betting. I think that as good as Western Kentucky is at its level of slinging the ball around, I think they're about to just face a completely different level of defense, a different level of coordinator, a different level of also maybe some determination this week. This is still a defense that's playing with a chip on its shoulder and probably will be all season, because it knows that people say last year, if it wasn't for this defense, Ohio State might have been a national champion. And they've got something to answer for this year. And this is just another week to do that against the biggest threat that they've had so far. So I expect Ohio State to score a ton of points. I don't think that's going to be really in question. But I don't think it's going to resemble anything close to a shootout. And, Ohio State's allowed 2 scoring drives in 2 games so far, a touchdown and a field goal. And I think allowing 2 in this game is about my cap. I guess I can see them maybe adding on a field goal or something if Western Kentucky could. But I think that this offense, the thing that we always forget with Ohio State is when the offense gets in one of these games where it just rolls. Think of like 2021 Michigan State, and there's other examples. Purdue from that same season. Like when this offense really clicks in and rolls, it puts so much pressure on the other offense. Like forget what it's doing to a team's defense. Now that other offense goes out there with the knowledge that it can't punt. Like it has to score every time it touches the ball at some point. And that's a lot. That's a high burden. So I'm saying 49-14, covering the 29, but coming in under the over-under.